And at this time, I would rest. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Giroux,
At this time, we call Mr. Williams.
please be seated. Mr. Giroux, your witness.
Mr. Williams, did you enjoy your time with the Douglas County Sheriff's Office?
I did.
Why did you resign?
A member of the Lawrence Police Department contacted me and asked if I'd be interested in coming to work for them.
LPD, did it have better pay?
They did.
LPD, was it a larger department as far as officers?
Yes, sir.
Did you feel that there might be more opportunity there for you than with ESO?
I did.
Okay, and then at some point in time, you resigned from LPD, is that right?
Yes, sir.
What was the approximate date and time of that resignation?
Early January of 2021.
Okay. Prior to that time, had you been recruited by anyone who was in, I'll call it the private business sector, not law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
Did you have a friend who was a former LPD officer who left LPD and went into the insurance business?
I did.
And did he become what most of us call an insurance agent?
Yes, sir.
And did you talk to him about that?
I did.
Just very briefly summarize the conversation, please.
He expressed that he enjoyed the work, enjoyed the hours, the flexibility it gave with family life. We both have small kids. He was able to be present more around his family and be a dad.
When all this took place, were you married?
I was.
Still married?
Yes, sir.
Younger children?
Blessed, yes.
All right, how many?
4.
When did they actually start recruiting you? And when did you start this application process?
It would have been late October of 2020, maybe early November, right around Halloween, first of November.
Are you enjoying your time as an insurance agent?
Yes, sir.
Do you currently have any plans to return to law enforcement?
Not at this time.
So then why are you fighting the summary order against your law enforcement certification, Mr. Williams?
Very frankly, I think it's wrong. I'm here to defend my honor, my name, and just make what's right.
The summary order alleges that you were engaged in bias-based policing. Were you engaged in bias-based policing?
No.
The summary order alleges that you do not have good moral character. Do you believe you violated the good moral character requirement?
No, sir.
Is traffic enforcement important to you?
Yes, sir.
Why is that?
Traffic, there's lots of bad things that happen that involve traffic and cars and people, accidents. It was a safety issue for me when I was on patrol. I wanted to be proactive and try and provide for the safety of the motoring public.
Based upon what you observed at LPD, would it be fair to say that some officers had a passion for traffic enforcement and others did not?
Yes, sir.
Which category would you fall into?
I would fall into the I have a passion for.
Were you particularly interested in getting drunk drivers off the roadway?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Based on my training and experience, general statistics would tell you that drunk drivers kill more people than most other criminals combined. It was a huge safety risk. I had the unfortunate experience of working drunk driving fatalities and seeing the effect on families and friends, and it just became a passion of mine to try and mitigate, prevent that.
When you were searching for drunk drivers, what types of particular traffic violations would you look for?
You always have the obvious, vehicles are weaving back and forth across lanes, driving super slow or super fast, just really any lawful traffic violation to make contact with the driver.
In the overwhelming majority of traffic stops that you made, did you know the gender of the driver before you made the stop?
No, the overwhelming majority of the time, I did not know the gender of the driver before I made the decision to stop. There may have been a very select few times where it was obvious and it was known, but the overwhelming majority of the time, it was not.
So there was testimony a year earlier about a last name Watts, about you seeing her walking across the parking lot. In that instance, you're not denying you was being correct.
Correct, I believe that was Ms. Bolton.
Okay, I apologize, I mixed the two up. Let's talk about MIP enforcement. How did that come about? Did you just decide you were going to go into bars? Was it directed by supervisors? How did it work?
It was typically directed. Sometimes we would have like specific nights where there would be 4 or 5 or 6 of us that were just assigned to go do bar checks all night long. Other times during shift change, the supervisor would say, I want you 4 officers to go do bar checks at some point tonight. And it would just be on us at that point in time to get together and go do it.
And did they send you in basically with a partner 2 by 2?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did any partner you were doing MIP enforcement with ever question the number of females versus males who were stopped?
No, sir.
Why was MIP enforcement important to you?
It was usually a precursor for additional criminal activity. We found that when we did MIP enforcement, we had less fights at the end of the night, we had less disturbances, we had less people going to the hospital, and a lot of those people show up and they drink, and when they get in their car, they drive home. So in order to do that enforcement would help us mitigate other crime and provide for safety for the public.
Did you ever receive any recognition or awards for your drunk driving stops?
I did.
I direct your attention to Williams Exhibit number 1. Would you this is evidence? Can you identify what this is and why you were given it?
This is an award I received from MAD, or Mothers Against Drunk Driving, in 2018 for my DUI or OUI and MIP enforcement efforts.
When you got this, did any officer or LPT come up to you and say anything like, I think this is ridiculous, you're just stopping a bunch of women?
No, sir.
Did any team member say that?
No, sir.
Did Wiltz ever say that to you?
No, sir.
Did any supervisor ever say that to you?
No, sir.
Are you also a DRE, drug recognition expert?
I was at the time of my employment. I'd have to look at the date if my certification may have expired.
All right. In order to keep certification, you've got to keep doing so many, attend so many continuing education classes, things like that.
Yes, sir.
Was your DRE certification ever revoked because you were doing anything wrong or improper?
No, sir.
All right. And do they let anyone just go to these DREs, or do you have to have recommendations?
There is an application process, and part of that application process is you have to have recommendation.
And as part of that application process, did you obtain a letter from a Douglas County District Attorney, ADA Assistant District Attorney, by the name of Andrew Bouch?
I did.
If you look at exhibit number 2, which has already been admitted into evidence,
Yes, sir.
is this the letter that you obtained?
It is.
I direct your attention to the very last paragraph that starts out, Williams has taken an active role in DUI deterrence in Douglas County. Do you see that?
I do.
The next sentence, while Williams aggressively investigates DUI cases, he does so in a fair and balanced manner, thereby ensuring the rights of suspects are maintained while he builds a case. Is that what it says?
That is.
I'm going to show you, or direct your attention to Williams Exhibit number 21. Shall remind me, is this one we stipulated to?
Is that the DRE report?
Yes.
Yes.
So, Exhibit 21, Mr. Williams is already in evidence. Does Kansas Highway Patrol keep track of DRE opinion toxicology reports?
Yes, sir, they do.
And is this one of them for you?
It is.
And this one's dated October 26, 2018.
That's correct.
And we've already talked about the percentages. I'm not going to read them again. The document speaks for itself, but as far as the totals, was your accuracy 91.43%?
Yes, sir.
I want to talk about the bias-based policing allegation. When you're going to make a traffic stop, Mr. Williams, what do you base the decision to make the stop on?
The decision to make a traffic stop is based on the vehicle's behavior.
Are you basing your reason for the traffic stop on the gender of the person?
No, sir.
In the vast majority of cases, before you make a decision to stop, can we even determine the gender?
In the vast majority of cases, no.
So, examples that might cause you to stop a vehicle might be a radar tone,
Yes, sir.
weaving,
Yes, sir.
no headlamps,
Correct.
failure to signal a turn or lane change.
Yes, sir.
Could be any number of reasons, correct?
Correct.
Did it matter to you, Mr. Williams, if the person you stopped when you got up to the window was a male or a female?
Not at all.
And I think we've already talked about this a little bit, but I want to cover it. What shift did you work the majority of your time when you were in law enforcement?
When I worked for the county, the majority of the time I worked straight night shift, which is 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. When I worked for the Lawrence Police Department, I worked either a late swing shift or a night shift. The late swing shift was 5 p.m. to 3 a.m. The night shift was 9 at night to 7 in the morning.
So, in looking at your traffic stop numbers, do you have an explanation as to why there were more females than males for your officer-initiated OUI stops?
Yes, the explanation I would offer is that those were the drivers that were operating the vehicles that I stopped based on vehicle behavior.
So let's talk about what you can see and when. Let's first talk about daytime. When you worked for both the city and the county, did both vehicles have radar equipment on it for speed detection?
Yes.
And when you're running radar, let's talk about oncoming vehicles first. On average, how far away do you get a tone, assuming there's no obstructions?
On average, at least a couple hundred feet. Assuming no obstructions, you could, as soon as you see the vehicle, the radar would work if there's no obstructions or traffic or anything like that.
And at those distances, can you tell the gender of the driver?
No.
So when you hear a tone and you determine that there's a speeding violation, are you basing that on gender?
No.
At my request, you go out and take some photographs to approximate things that you would have seen when you were an officer in both daytime and nighttime conditions in the city and county. And I'm going to direct your attention to Williams' exhibit. Turn to tab 4, there's 3 exhibits. They're labeled 4A, 4B, and 4C. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Is this a series of photographs of a vehicle approaching you?
It is.
All right, and are these straight photographs that you took, or doctored in any way from the photos?
They are, as I took.
And this first series of photographs, where is this taken?
This will be on North 1600 Road, which is in rural Douglas County, Kansas.
Okay, so in 4A, if you were running radar and that vehicle was speeding, would you get a tone there?
Yes, sir.
All right. Looking at that photograph, would you tell the gender of the driver?
No, sir.
4B, vehicle's closer, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Same questions, would you tell the gender of the driver?
No, sir.
4C, vehicle's even closer, that looks like it's maybe a couple car lengths away, would you tell the gender of the driver?
No, sir.
Exhibit number 5, there's 5A and 5B, let's start with exhibit number 5. Where is this located?
This will be on McDonald Drive on the north part of the city of Lawrence.
Within the city limits? All right, and this, I can't tell if it's a minivan, an SUV, whatever the vehicle is, can you tell the gender of the driver?
No, sir.
How about 5B, can you tell the gender of the driver?
No, sir.
Exhibit number 6, there's 6A through G. Let's go through these one at a time. Where is this taken?
This will be on West 6th Street in Lawrence, Kansas.
All right, within the city limits?
Yes, sir.
And in this 6A, can you tell the gender of the driver and that instead of G?
No, sir.
How about, can you tell the gender of the driver of the vehicle in front of you?
No, sir.
6B. There, the G is even closer. You see that?
I do.
Can you tell the gender of the driver there?
No, sir.
How about the red car behind you? Can you tell the gender of the driver there?
No.
6C. Red car, another silver car behind you. Can you tell the gender of either of those drivers?
No, sir.
6D. This black car that's in front. Can you tell the gender of the driver?
No.
6E. Silver car. Can you tell the gender of the driver?
No.
6F. Can you tell the gender of the driver?
You can help.
6G. Can you tell the gender of the driver?
No.
Let's turn to exhibit 7, please. Where's this taken?
This will be on Highway 59, which is in rural Jefferson County, Kansas, just north of the Jefferson Douglas County line.
All right. And you see the white car in 7A?
I do.
Tell the gender of the driver?
No, sir.
How about 7B? What's closer? Can you tell the gender?
No.
How about 7C? Tell the gender?
No.
Let's look at exhibit 8. There's 2, 3 photographs. 8, A, B, and C. Where was this taken?
These were taken on Castle Drive and then 6th Street, the intersection kind of around the corner from each other in Lawrence.
In the city?
Yes, sir.
And this is a white Kia, is that right?
Correct.
Is that tinted windows?
The rear window is tinted.
All right. And looking back, you tell the gender of the driver, even though you're almost right alongside.
Correct.
And in that picture, in daytime, do you see any reflection in the rear window or the side windows?
You can see some clouds and trees reflecting off.
And then 8B. Can you tell the gender of the driver?
No.
8C, tell the gender of the driver?
You can help.
Now, when you stop at a stoplight or a stop sign, and you ride alongside someone and their driver's window is not tinted, do you ever look over and check who the driver is?
Sure.
Why do you do that?
Because you're stopped at a stationary intersection, you want to be aware of who was around.
Do you do that because you want to see if the driver's a male or female?
No.
Did you ever pull alongside a vehicle during the day or night, see if there's a female, and then manufacture a reason to stop?
No, sir.
Exhibit number 9. Now the A through D. Where is this at?
This is again on West 6th Street, further on the west end of the city, but still inside the city limits of Lawrence.
All right. There are multiple vehicles pictured there. Can you tell the gender of any drivers?
No.
9B, same question.
You can help.
9C, same question.
You can help.
9D, same question.
You can help.
Exhibit 10. There's 10, A through C. Where's this located?
This is on 40 Highway in rural Douglas County, Kansas.
All right. And that oncoming vehicle is a couple car lengths away from you.
Yeah.
Can you tell the gender of the driver?
No, sir.
How about maybe 10D as it gets closer?
You can help.
10C, does that have a reflection on the windshield?
It does.
Can you tell the gender of the driver? If you were going to make a decision to stop this vehicle, this picture, okay, and it was on radar, how far back would you make the decision?
At a minimum, the first photo.
Photographs in exhibit number, there's 1, 11, did you look at that?
Yes, sir.
So there's a truck up ahead, is that right?
That's correct.
All right. That truck was an old truck, doesn't have any tint at all, does it?
That's correct.
It's got a straight back window, so you're not dealing with any reflections, true?
True.
Can you tell if that vehicle has a male or female driver?
No.
How about the black car in the right lane? Can you tell the gender of the driver of that car?
No.
Exhibit number 12. Let's start with nighttime photographs. It's 12A, B, C,
And B, where is this located?
Begin on 6th Street and 4th Street.
All right. And you see the oncoming cars? You see how they have headlights?
Yes, sir.
All right. So an oncoming car and I have headlights. I realize that the camera has a tendency to start the light. Generally, can you see past the headlights into the passenger compartment when you're 6, 7, 8 car lengths away when you get home as to the gender of the driver?
No.
So for the vehicles that are going in the same direction as you are here, you tell the gender of any of the drivers.
No, sir.
12B, same question. You tell the gender of any of the drivers in those vehicles.
No.
And is this area a well-lit area of Florence?
Yes, it's maybe broke area.
All right. 12C, same question. Can you tell the gender of any of the drivers?
No.
12B, this area is not as well lit, correct?
Correct.
Can you tell the gender of the driver in the black vehicle in 12B? Exhibit 13, 13A, 13B, let's see. How about the white vehicle? That's a 45-degree angle to your right. Tell the gender of the driver?
No, sir.
How about the Ford SUV that's in front of you? Can you see the back, through the back window? See the outfits? 13B is more straight on view. Tell the gender of the driver there.
No, sir.
The oncoming vehicle is 13B on the other side of the roadway. Can you see past the headlights? Tell the gender of any of the driver. 13C. Can you tell the gender of any of those drivers? 14. Where's that located?
So we have 6th and Iowa Street inside the city of Lawrence.
All right. Is that area well lit?
It is.
Tell the gender of any of those drivers.
No, sir.
15A. You can see one street light that says, street sign that says 11th Street. That's the cross street. What's the main street?
Kentucky Street.
And is that through primarily residential area?
Yes, it's just outside the downtown area, primarily residential households.
Now, we can see that the intersection has artificial light, correct?
Yes.
But the rest of the area within the block does not.
True.
This is a one-way street.
It is.
If you were trying to observe a car that had no taillights on at distances of either of these vehicles, could you tell the gender of the driver?
No.
Could you tell the gender of the driver of either of these vehicles?
No.
15B, that's a vehicle actually turning at the intersection, is that right?
That's right.
When that vehicle is turning, you're going to determine the gender of the driver.
No, sir.
So if the street light is overhead, and if the vehicle is in the intersection, even though the intersection is lighted, the interior of the vehicle, for the most part, is going to be shaded by the roof, correct?
Correct.
Some light can get in through the front windshield, but the majority will be shaded. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
15C, is that a car on 11th Street?
It is. We'll be on the right-hand side of the yes.
Thank you. And is the interior of that car illuminated by the street light?
It is not.
Can you see the gender of the driver when you're out there?
No.
Let's look at 16. A through G. Where's this?
Across the street is Tennessee Street. And I believe the street that I'm stopped on is either 11th or 12th. Probably going to be 12th because there's traffic lights.
All right, would this be within your control area?
Yes, sir.
So if you look up the street, we see some cars approaching headlights, all right?
We do.
Now, it does what cameras do, it makes these little lines or stars. It doesn't, those lines or stars don't look like that in real life.
Correct.
But do the glow from the headlamps approximate what you could actually see as those cars are approaching?
You said
Do the glow from the headlamps on those vehicles approximate what you could see as those vehicles were approaching?
yes.
Can you see past the headlights in the passenger compartment? That's what the gender of the driver is.
No.
16B, however the cars get closer, can you tell there?
You cannot.
16C, when the cars get closer, can you tell there?
No.
Different vehicle on 16D, can you tell there?
No.
Different vehicle on 16E, can you tell there?
No.
Even though that intersection is lighted, the area where that vehicle is pretty dark. Would you agree?
That's correct.
16F, you tell the gender of either the car right at the intersection or looks like some kind of truck approaching.
No.
16G, you tell the gender of any driver in those vehicles.
No.
17A and C. 17A, you tell the gender, well, first of all, where is this?
It's on Iowa Street in the city of Lawrence.
All right. Well-lit area?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the gender of any of those vehicles approaching?
No.
17B, you tell the gender?
No.
17C, can you tell the gender?
No.
Now, when I asked you to do this exercise so that you could demonstrate to the commissioners what the area actually looks like, or what is actually visible, in real life, without looking at the photographs, were you able to tell the gender of all of these photographs?
No.
And as we've just covered, in all these photographs, you're not able to tell the gender of the driver. Is that true?
That is correct.
When you turn in your reports for OUIs, what's your understanding
Our
as to
law
whether or
enforcement
not
military.
they're reviewed by your supervisor?
My understanding is that our reports are reviewed by the supervisor.
As reports were being turned in, is your understanding that it would be reviewed by a supervisor, approved, and then forwarded to records, or whatever you call it?
Yes.
Okay. So, on a regular basis, when you're working, when you made arrests, would your reports be reviewed by supervisors?
Yes.
And during what I would call the regular basis, we've already covered some specific instances where witnesses said there were conversations with you. But on the day-to-day, did any of your supervisors ever say to you after reading the prior day's report, hey, I'm really concerned about the number of females that you're stopping?
No.
Was the gender indicated in the report?
Yes, it was.
Now, how about for MIPs? When you turned in those, the supervisors look at those before they go to records?
They did this.
All right. Any supervisor, before this internal affairs investigation began, ever say, hey, really concerned about the number of female to male MIPs?
No, they did not.
And those reports indicate the sex of the person that is arrested, is that correct?
They do.
Officer Williams, there's been some testimony without the ability to point to any single incident that some people believe you were contacting drivers and asking for some kind of exchange for sexual favor in exchange for something. Remember hearing that testimony?
I do.
Did you do that?
Not at all.
Did you do it once?
No.
You heard testimony from, I believe it was Officer Wiltz, that she said she thought another officer talked to you about the number of females that you were arresting. Do you remember hearing that?
I do.
Did that ever happen?
It did not.
Were there some LPD officers on your team that didn't like the fact that you were making a lot of traffic stops?
Yes, there was.
There's one mention in one of the documents that's been submitted as evidence about you made a stop for something, running the drivers through some roadsides. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I guess we need to be a little more specific.
Okay, that was a bad question. There was one stop where there was an African-American male as a passenger, and he began critiquing you when you asked the driver to do roadsides. Remember that?
I did.
And was that stop actually made in the parking lot? The car pulls off the street, pulls into the parking lot?
It was.
All right. And as you were doing these roadsides, well, first of all, did you target stopping that vehicle because there was an African American in it?
No.
Did you even tell what the race of the people were?
No.
So you stop it. He gets out. Is he walking around in and out of parked cars, basically criticizing?
Just object to relevance at this point. I mean, we didn't bring up that stop. We're not arguing that stop.
Well, here's the problem that I have, and maybe we can clear this up. It's introduced in a document. She said they weren't going to offer testimony, but it's mentioned in the document. If she's going to stipulate that they're not bringing any race-based evidence or allegation, I'll forward this.
Yes, I believe
I
I
think we
did that.
did that.
and
She
I
talked
said
about
it was just the
not using it.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure the record was clear, because I know she said it was mentioned in her report. So I will not cover that. All right, so 5 years after the fact, you are, 5 years after what? Let me start the question again, I apologize. Getting a little tired. At some point in time, you talked with Lieutenant Under, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you have a Lawrence Police Officers Association rep with you?
I did.
Okay. And he talks to you about things that he said happened, is that right?
Lieutenant Under did?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
And then you get to leave the meeting, is that right?
that's correct.
When you leave the meeting, do you talk with the LPOA rep?
Yes.
Who was it?
Officer Trowbridge.
All right. And did Officer Trowbridge? Trowbridge, thank you. Did Officer Trowbridge and you have a discussion as to whether one or both of you felt like Lieutenant Unruh seemed biased toward you in that initial interview?
We did, yes.
All right. And was that just your opinion, or was that his opinion?
It was his opinion. He's actually the one who brought it up. He asked me if I felt that Officer Under was being somewhat hostile and one-sided or biased when he was going over the data.
Did you also have a concern that Lieutenant Unruh had never done this type of investigation?
I did, yes.
And did you put in the document that we read that you asked that Officer Unruh be replaced by someone who was experienced and someone who wasn't biased?
I did, yes.
Did they do that?
It does not appear that they did.
One of the things you wrote in your statement, I believe it's States Exhibit 8 or 9, it's 9. We talked to Lieutenant Under about this. It's on the first page. You actually typed out, while I was at the SO, no one in the SO ever raised any issue that I was initiating activity based upon age or gender. Do you remember that?
I do.
All right. When you wrote that, Mr. Williams, did you remember the conversation that you had with the lieutenant in States Exhibit 1, Bush?
I did not.
Were you intentionally trying to deceive anyone?
Not at all.
So you write this in 2021 about the meeting that occurred in 2016, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Then you had a chance to talk to George Brown, and he asked you the same thing, didn't he?
Mr. Brown asked me about it. I was never asked about it by Lieutenant Under.
Okay. It was just in your statement, Tom.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for clarifying. So when Investigator Brown asks you these questions, does he say words to the effect of that he has a document that says otherwise or something like that?
He does.
You ask him if you can see the document.
I do.
And at first, does he agree to show it to you?
At first, he did not.
So you continue to talk to him, and you ask a second time to see it, right?
Correct.
And then he produced the document to you, is that right?
He did, yes.
Was that a document that you had seen before that day?
No, sir, he's not.
Is it a document that you signed off on?
It was not.
After he showed it to you, and after you read it, did you tell him that you still didn't remember it?
I did express to him that I have no recollection of that conversation at all.
Did you tell him you denied the conversation ever occurred, or did you tell him you simply had no recollection of the conversation?
I told him that I simply just did not have a recollection.
Those are all questions.